Everybody, Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, Saturday mornings with Jim Valley, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern, Sundays with Andrew Zarian. It's Monday here on the show, and I'm here. I almost wasn't here today. I'll talk about it after the break. But, you know, like old Darren Young, no days off. That was Darren Young, right? Even though I have a day off coming on Thursday. But you see, when I take Monday off, my whole week gets all screwed up. Because then I think Tuesday is Monday, and I think Wednesday is... I just had to do it today. Come hell or high water. So, we got a lot to talk about. It was a busy weekend. There was a Saturday night's main event. There was a SmackDown. There was a Collision. This coming Saturday is the Royal Rumble. And for those of you asking, yes, my buddy Mark will be doing the Royal Rumble show. The post show coming up on Saturday night for subscribers at WrestlingObserver.com. So we'll talk about the Royal Rumble, the Go Home Raw here tonight. There's a Go Home SmackDown on Friday. Could talk about all the shows that took place this past weekend, as well as upcoming shows, Raw tonight, and NXT, and Dynamite coming up on Wednesday. We've also got an update on when another WWE show is going to be kicking off. This WWE LFG. LFG! You know what that stands for, right? Well, you don't. I'll tell you what it actually stands for. And we'll also talk about the passing of Colonel De Beers, who I would say I knew quite well for a couple of years there, but I've not talked to him in a long, long time. We got some updates on the transfer portal and Paul White and Omos and plenty more. If you want to text us today, 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. Darren Young. Yes. And F4WOnline at gmail.com. F4W Online, Threads, Instagram, and Cameo. At Bryan Alvarez, X and Blue Sky. Back in a moment. Observer Live. Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful.
Happy birthday, dear Granny.
Happy birthday, Granny. Happy 95th birthday.
Thank you.
You got balloons behind you as well, Vinny. People can't really see them.
No.
They think it might just be your hump. But it's very festive
I
day
should not
today.
laugh at that. That's a horrible insult that you just gave
Yeah,
me.
you laughed. It was a good
But it
one.
was funny.
Happy birthday!
Okay.
Happy birthday, Granny!
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, you guys, I don't even know what you just said. Okay, go.
Bye!
Bye, girls. Close the door, please. Rob Wanska, a top fan. That granny is one of a kind. If you cannot see that, you're blind. Whether she's knitting a quilt or giving Brian some guilt, she's the greatest old gal that you'll find.
Was that, who was that?
Producer
That was
Rob.
Rob.
Producer Rob?
Yeah.
Fine
like
job,
that.
Rob.
He has talent?
Thank you,
Great.
Rob.
Wow.
This is Mariah May versus Anna J. Anna has a problem. Her top seems to want to drop down. She has to keep pulling it up. Mariah pins Anna for the win. I think Anna just gave up due to the fact that her wardrobe was malfunctioning.
That's what happened?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, if they wore decent clothes, it'd be better. Those T-straps are ridiculous.
Those what?
T-straps. Don't you know what a T-strap is?
No, I do not know what a T-strap
I don't think
is.
there's a T-strap in Brian's closet, Granny.
No.
I don't know.
T-strap. Oh, a thong? Why don't you say a thong?
A what?
Never mind. You don't know what a thong is?
No.
Why are we having this conversation?
What part of the body is it on?
Does it go on the
Woman.
top or the bottom?
On your
Butt?
butt. Yep.
Okay.
Granny had to be very careful. So it's a thong.
Why are we having this conversation?
According to the Old Testament of the Bible, who is the father of both Isaac and Ishmael?
Job.
Abraham.
Wrong.
Oh, really?
Abraham.
I just...
Did you say that?
Yes, he
I'm so-
did.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. You're right.
yeah.
I just didn't hear you.
Well, Granny, I hope you had a happy birthday today.
I had to.
Hey, we got a special present for you. You are officially being inducted, yes, into the Hall of Awesome.
It's about time.
Yes. You know what that is,
Oh,
Granny?
Wait a minute. I want everybody to see this. How can I show it?
Clearly, Granny is really excited about being inducted into the Hall of Awesome. She's busy showing off her trophy.
Is that an old gray mare trophy?
It's got a horse on it for some reason. Well, let's get out of the way first. At some point during the show, I'm out of here. Hopefully not for very long. But there's a leak somewhere on this property. And that's all I know right now. So there's a fella here. And for sure there's one of the toilets appears to have water running perpetually, which is not supposed to do, so he's working on that. And then in the garage, there is a, this, you turn on the hose outside, you plug the hose into the gimmick, whatever. Anyway, when you turn that on, water comes out the other side, so that's definitely needs to be repaired. So, hopefully, when those two things are fixed, he'll check the gimmick out front, and there will be no more water running, okay? If that doesn't fix the problem, probably something under the house. So let's all pray together that it's just the upstairs toilet and the spigot outside of the garage. You can hear him right now drilling. So anyway, about an hour and a half ago, he said it'd be about an hour. I don't even think he's finished the outside one yet. So if he finishes during the show, he's going to call and I got to go pay. So that's what's going on.
Sounds like this could be expensive.
Well, I mean, it could be much more expensive if it's not. Yeah. These two here are $1,500. $1,500. God.
Now, how did you find this out? Did you find out because you had an unusually high water bill for the quarter, or did something start spurting
so
out of the lawn?
I knew there was an issue with the hose outside, okay? Because when you turn it on, it leaks out of the other side of the garage wall, right? But if it's not on, it doesn't do anything. So, I was going to get that worked on, but I don't turn it on at all in the winter. It's freezing out. So, it wasn't until I got a letter saying that it appears that you've got a leak from the water company.
Ooh.
So then it was like, okay, well.
It's bad when they're telling you.
Well, then I thought about it, and I was like, so if I turn it on and water's coming out, that's a problem. So maybe when it's turned off, it's still leaking. So I was hoping that's all that it was, and they could just fix that. But we'll find out soon enough, everybody. No, there is no GoFundMe, but I mean, if anybody wants to buy a Cameo or something, every little bit helps. Anyway, when the guy calls, I'll find out what the deal is. Hopefully it's good news. Otherwise, Mike's in charge forever.
Yeah, really, because you're going to have to go down there and put your finger in it like that kid who way back in the day put his finger in the dike.
No, that's not the problem.
Oh.
The problem would be it's underneath the house. That's a problem.
I know. I went through this last year, and it was awful, and it was expensive, and then they had to seal everything off, which was even more expensive. So I'm pulling for you and your homeowner's insurance payments.
I'm just paying the $1,500.
Well, for now.
I mean, if it's significantly more, I'll
if
worry
something
about
underneath,
that then.
then you're going to have to put in a claim because you're not coming with that out of pocket. Then again, you have that kind of folding money in your pocket. You just come out with like 20
Kidding
grand.
me? You kidding me? I'll call them immediately. All right. Yeah, you want to get that guy on the show and have him explain it?
Explain why subscriptions are now going to be $19.99 a month?
So we'll start off with a scoop for everybody. But it's one of those scoops where I don't know exactly what's going on. Okay, so listen.
It's a half a scoop.
Well, I can tell you this for sure. So I talked about it on Observer Radio yesterday. Apollo Crews got hurt on SmackDown, okay? If you watched the show, Johnny Gargano gave him a back cracker in the ropes, and this dude went down and immediately grabbed his shoulder and his pec, and he did not move his arm the rest of the match. And they finished the match But, like, afterwards, I mean, that guy got out of there and he got backstage as quick as possible. And I don't know if it's a pec. I don't know if it's a shoulder. I do know that they are trying to check out and see what's going on. So he did get hurt on that spot. That I can confirm. And hopefully it's not too serious, and hopefully he is back fairly soon. But he looked good in that match after not being in action forever. So hopefully he's all right. Then we got this. I presumed I knew what WWE LFG stood for. Apparently not.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, it stands for WWE Legends and Future Greats.
You didn't know this?
No.
Legends
Legends and Future Greats. Okay. Well, anyway.
Level up.
It is an action-packed competitive series, which is good. I don't like dull, non-competitive series.
We're putting it on C-SPAN 4.
It'll feature 16 WWE prospects trying to earn a spot on NXT. Have you ever watched NXT? My God, imagine. Matches taped at the Performance Center.
So it's going to be the original NXT segments they used to have on the show with competitions and such, because one thing WWE does not have right now is a reality show to sell. And this is kind of a reality show that they could probably sell.
Well, it's on A&E. It will resume on February 16th with WWE LFG at 8, WWE Rivals at 9:30, and then WWE's Greatest Moments at 10:30. So you're telling me this is a 90-minute show every week?
There hasn't been a block that unwatched since Joe Pedicino.
An hour and a half of WWE LFG?
Yes.
All right.
It's good. Hey, look, if you're A&E, I don't know anybody that really watches any of those shows that come on Sunday, but apparently the biographies and greatest legends and whatever stuff they have, it's got an audience. And A&E was willing to spend money on this, and it's obviously they wanted to theme an entire day around it. So, I mean, knock yourself out if you're WWE. I mean, I hate the fact that there's so much content from both companies, but that's just the situation you're in. You can't turn down that kind of money and pump out basically, I don't want to say mindless programming, but essentially that's what it is that, obviously they want.
Well, it says here that we've got Triple H, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker.
Is Lee fitting there?
Booker T.
Well, of course.
Mickey James and Bubba Ray.
Sure.
Will all have roles guiding talent. These participants will receive world-class coaching from these individuals.
From Bully Ray?
Yes.
I know.
And I can't wait.
Yes. Well,
I got to at least watch one episode. Maybe it'll be one of those shows that's just like golden content every week.
Oh, you're going to know in whatever trailer they send out there, if you have people crying, like the girl crying because Bully Ray is screaming at her, or like you're going to be able to tell from whatever they give you if you should check it out or not. If they don't give you something in that teaser, then that's really going to be boring. So.
Actually, is that true? A&E isn't on YouTube TV?
No.
How the heck do I watch A&E then?
You can pick it
Which
up
of
on
these
a package.
85 goofy streaming services am I going to have to watch? Is it going to be on Peacock? Let's see here. A&E.
Is A&E on the cock?
Mike, please. Let's see where I can watch A&E. Why does this not help me here?
I don't know, but if you can find like a little bundle service that has the all cartoon MeTV with the old cartoons on it, let me know.
Let's see. A&E.
Yeah, that's another thing, by the way, is you look for it for Vice TV and the anything that comes on there, like the new season of Dark Side and this UFC one, MMA one that they're doing. I mean, the carriage on Vice TV is almost nil now, so I don't know how anybody is seeing that.
All right, I'm going to find out if this is going to be on Peacock as well, because I'm not sure. What's A&E affiliated with? Is this going to be like
I found
on
it. Hulu Live TV has A&E.
Hulu? But that's it?
Hulu, DirecTV, Philo, and Sling.
Dom,
so I have none of those.
Can you find out if it's going to be available on Hulu to watch in a couple days afterwards, if they have the next day on that something?
I will look, yes.
Thank you, Dom. Dom is like my own personal AI assistant.
Concierge.
He is like a concierge.
Dom by elegance.
I don't know about that. You met him?
Hey, he
Dom,
sent
I love
me,
you, but I think you would agree that you are not elegant.
Hey, he
correct?
sent me insomnia cookies, so I'll call him whatever he wants if he sends me
He hit
more
that
cookies.
music as fast as he could after that. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
Arrived in AEW, I really think it's elevated the women's division. And it's not to talk badly about the rest of the women, but you've elevated the women's division.
I mean, that's why I came here to AEW.
Right.
To put women's wrestling on the map, to make women's wrestling global. And now we are coming to Globe Life Field next year. And women's wrestling has just been better than ever, and I just love being here in AEW so much. I feel like our women's division is one of the greatest women's division in the entire world.
Very cool. And this event is so big, it is a destination for fans all over the world to come here.
It is.
It's going to be not only an event on pay-per-view, but it's going to be an entire week of things for fans to do. So This is our big event.
Let's go, guys.
What we've done in 5 years. Yeah. It's very humbling to be here. I get emotional because I think of what AEW's given me. You know, the wrestling industry, when I first started, I think about what the wrestling industry kind of like represented. I saw a lot of, it can chew you up and spit you out and leave you with nothing. And I was really nervous starting my career because I didn't want to be chewed up and spit out and left with nothing. But when AEW started, it felt like a family. It felt like a place that could take someone like me and make something out of it. You know, a lot of people are very consumed with their public image, and they care so much about how they're perceived to the public, but inside they're dying. But the cool thing with AEW is I can look at myself in the mirror and know exactly who I'm looking at. This company gives me so much. They let me do what I want to do out there in the ring in front of all of you, and they let me do what I want to do in my personal life. I am climbing Mount Everest in April. And I'm going to take that AEW flag and I'm going to plant it on top of the goddamn world and remind everybody what AEW is capable of. And then when I climb down from that mountain, And when I climb down from that mountain, I'm coming to Globe Life Field. And as a whole, AEW as a family, we're going to remind the world exactly what this company is capable of. That's right! Because it doesn't happen with just us. It happens with every single one of you. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you for coming out. Thank you for continuing to show the love.
Dom?
Yes.
What did we determine, Dom?
It looks like A&E, most of their content is on Hulu. I opened the Hulu app and I found the first 48, Storage Wars, all of the A&E staples.
So Hulu.
Yeah.
Which I don't have. Okay. God, after this plumbing thing,
Hulu
I
Plus
ain't going to have no
live
Hulu
TV.
after this plumbing incident. I can tell you that much now.
Gonna have to go back to the Xfinity. Fun Monday. What you got there?
Just looking at some info about this
numbers?
This show.
Streaming numbers for this show? Oh.
No, about LFG. Well, apparently they're paying a lot of money for LFG because I guess it is 90 minutes a week, and it's got all the big stars. So
all the stars are there.
Yeah.
Vicky James and Bully Ray.
Sure.
And Booker T.
Yeah.
Will Triple H be on every week, or do you think... I just want to see him be like a villain, like a head on a screen that comes on at the end of every episode to vote somebody off the island.
Yes. I got a lot going on, Mike. Talk.
Obviously, you do. You seem to be laboring right now. You know, there's Royal Rumble's coming up. Only 4 matches on that thing. I don't know if everybody's seen that. And they barely announced anybody. It's amazing with everything that's been going on right now that it almost seems like Royal Rumble's been in the back seat because we've had the debut on Netflix. We've had a couple of Saturday night's main events, and I'm sure we're going to get into that a little bit later on as well, too. But the Royal Rumble finally coming up February, the first time I believe it's ever been in February. And it's only going to be 4 matches, and Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens is going to be one of them, and DIY against the Motor City Machine Guns, 2 out of 3 falls for the tag team titles. But the 2 Royal Rumbles, there's a lot of kind of drama there, and I'm sure some of it's going to be sorted out tonight during Raw, but only 10 men have been announced for the Rumble, and only 7 women have been announced so far, so there's a lot of people who could be involved in it. And with the women, you got Nia Jax, Bayley, Charlotte, Naomi, Bianca, Liv Morgan, and Raquel Rodriguez. And from there, you got a lot of NXT talent who's never been involved in a Royal Rumble. I don't think Fallon Henley has been in one, but this would probably be the year. Kalani Jordan, with if you wanted to replicate a Kofi Kingston spot, you got women like Kalani Jordan who could do that if you wanted to put her in the match. Jordan Grace, who knows what's going to be up with her for this year, if she's going to be in NXT full-time or not. But it's interesting. Masha Slamovich, plus, like Brian mentioned, with Becky Lynch, you could have her coming back. You could have Asuka coming back as well.
Well, here's the thing. So I got a couple of things on this, especially regarding the women. And yes, this person notes, by the way, Dakota Kai is injured again. Do you need to have 3 guesses as to what happened?
I tell you what, though, Bill Watts was so excited about that. He's going in retro, putting it in the open to Mid-South Wrestling. That was one hell of a drop kick.
I told you guys last week, the second I saw that drop kick in the response, it was like, oh, my God. And then, as always, everybody on Twitter's telling me, no, you're wrong. It's just selling, blah, blah, blah.
How can they say that? Oh, my God.
Because you know what I've learned, and this is why I try not to engage that much. You are going to find a large number of people who are going to disagree with anything you say, okay? It doesn't matter what it is. I could tweet, it is very sunny here in Bothell, and somebody with a name like Bothell8842 is going to say, but it's raining where I'm at. Whatever, okay? Anyway, she got killed by that drop kick. She's now injured, so I don't know if she's going to make it to the Rumble.
Well,
now,
people were saying she was loopy. It's not like there was any,
she was knocked loopy. Did you see her sit up?
I know, but
God.
even after, like, people were saying that, so
yes.
I don't know.
Now, the question here, why would they announce more entrants? Keep things a secret. Well, here's one of the issues that WWE has.
Announce some.
And that is, if you only announce 7 people for the Royal Rumble, okay? Now, all of a sudden, the fans are expecting like 23 big surprises. And then it's like, out comes, no offense to anybody, but like Meechin, out comes Piper. And like these people that were unannounced, people are like, oh, I know that person. Oh, I saw them. So I'm fine with like keeping a few entrants secret because you are going to have some big returns, but you don't want to go out there and just say, well, we're going to have a 30-woman or a 30-man Rumble, and here's 9 people that you know are going to be in it, and the rest are all going to be surprises. Because once you tell people that, they're expecting a large number of surprises. So obviously, I'm not saying this 100% because I don't know, but we do know Charlotte's going to be back because they advertise her on SmackDown. Charlotte, Royal Rumble. She's coming back then. Becky, I am like virtually certain she'll be in the Rumble. Alexa Bliss. Okay, there is actually something going on with Alexa Bliss, but I was told like it's not like a big deal. It's like, well, here's the offer. Well, how about this? We're in that stage. I would be surprised if she was not in the Royal Rumble.
The Pete Alonso of WWE.
Yeah, we're going to have some TNA names, obviously, some NXT names, and that's that. But, you don't want people thinking, we're going to have 10 giant surprises, and then you have like 3.
Well, for the men's, we are going to get a giant surprise. I don't know how much it's a surprise anymore.
Actually, we don't know we will get that surprise, but it is presumed we will get that surprise.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. Since it's in Indianapolis, how can Pat McAfee not be in this match, at least for a moment?
That's who you were talking about?
Hold on. But then you're going to need to get Pat McAfee out of there. And after there's everybody laid out somehow and Pat McAfee's in there celebrating, out comes Omos. Not with one half of the GHC titles around his waist. No, just Omos comes out there and Pat can eliminate himself, or they can do some sort of spot where Omos picks him up, throws him out, and that's how you can get rid of him. But it's hard for me to believe that with the way things went down, Omos is not going to be involved and be one of the 20 people that are still left to be announced.
All right, what else have we got here? Oh, we must talk about the passing of Colonel De Beers. So,
Easy Ed.
I knew Colonel. We called him the Colonel. And this would have been... So, I started wrestling. Oh, hey, take over for a sec. Talk about Ed while I get this.
You got it. I'll lay down the backstory for everybody here while Brian's gone. Ed Wiskowski was a veteran wrestler of the 70s and 80s, best known as Colonel De Beers on AWA television from 1986 through 1990. He passed away on Wednesday, just 12 days after he turned 80 years old. In addition to the AWA, Wiskowski was a big name, as Brian is going to tell you, and as I'm sure Jim Valley is going to tell you this week on Wrestling Observer Live. I'm really interested to see if Jim has anybody on to talk about Ed Wiskowski, because he was such a big name in the Pacific Northwest and such a regular there for so long. 20 years he was there for, had a prominent tag team with Buddy Rose in the late 1970s, not only Portland, where they were the Northwest Tag Team Champions, but also in Roy Shire's San Francisco territory, where he was not only one half of the NWA World Tag Team Champions in that area with Buddy Rose, but he also picked up the United States Heavyweight Championship as well. He was a native of St. Joseph, Missouri, and got broken into the business by old-time promoter Gus Karras, and he was trained by Ronnie Etchinson and Harley Race, among others, including Lord Littlebrook, who was one of the big trainers out there as well, too. In the early 1980s, Wiskowski had a role in WWF for a little while, where 2 TV tapings with Freddie Blassie as his manager. He was the Polish Prince, and you can go onto YouTube and see him there. In fact, a lot of his career you can see, not much from the Florida stuff, but Mid-South, he was there as well, too. He used to team up with Mike George, and I think they were the Mid-South Tag Team Champions for a little while, and I believe that may be available in the Mid-South stuff that's up on the network, like the 81. It would be around there. It would be very, very early, but later on in his career, he and Buddy Rose opened up a training center in Portland, and he did that into the 2000s, as Brian is also going to tell you. In 2004, he was honored by the Cauliflower Alley Club in the final, then had his final match the following year in 2005 at Wrestle Reunion. He teamed up with Buddy Rose one more time and Bob Orton Jr., and they took on Roddy Piper, Superfly Jimmy Snuka, and Jimmy Valiant. Superfly Snuka was probably, there were a couple of very infamous things with Colonel De Beers. I mean, I don't know how many of you out there know the story, because they didn't put this one in the Iron Claw, where Colonel De Beers was wrestling Kerry Von Erich during an AWA show in November of 1988, and he went to put a leg lock on him and took off Kerry's prosthetic foot. Kerry rolled under the ring, had to put that back on. It was something that was nobody believed if the story was true or not, but it absolutely ended up happening. But he was really infamous because the Colonel De Beers character that he had came into being at a time where there was a lot of attention on apartheid in South Africa. People going to play Sun City, and there was in boxing, it was a really big deal where the WBC and the IBF would not allow South African boxers to challenge for titles. That's how isolated South Africa was at that time in the world, and that's how much drama was going on there. And he took that when he went to the AWA and just worked it to the hilt. He was Colonel De Beers because of the De Beers diamond mines, and he never said it directly, but it was always, kind of just intimated that he was related to them somehow, but because of the racist aspects of South Africa, that's what he really played up. And there was a scene on AWA Championship Wrestling, I remember seeing it after SportsCenter on ESPN, where De Beers pile drove Snuka a bunch of times, called him an animal, he was bleeding everywhere, and it was a feud. It was an old time. Unfortunately, it was old heat. It was using race to get heat, and he was successful with that enough on a small scale that he continued on with it into the 90s when the UWF promotion of Herb Abrams came into being, and he pretty much did the same thing by saying he didn't want a black referee to referee his matches, and Iceman King Parsons ended up feuding with him. But you'll also see some stuff out there about him feuding with Scott Hall as well, too, in the AWA, where he would call him a big jacked up anabolic steroid freak. And so he just absolutely didn't care. But Brian, hopefully everything is all set with him, and we'll be back after the break.
Macy's is having a huge...
If you love our shows and you only want the shows, you can sign up today through Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts carries every podcast that we produce, over 84 podcasts every single month, and you can get every one of them at a touch of a button through Apple Podcasts. The easiest way to check it out is to go to f4wonline.com/Apple. In fact, we have a free trial. Free! You pay nothing. Check it out, and if you enjoy it, the service is just $9.99 per month. And if you think about $9.99 divided by 84 podcasts, it's just pennies per day to sign up through Apple Podcasts. So check it out, f4wonline.com/Apple. That is f4wonline.com/Apple. Try your free trial today. I hath returned.
You have.
Hath. So, I paid.
Ooh, how much?
For those of you who want to buy cameos and or a GoFundMe.
How many zeros on that thing?
$1,674.43. Now, this is actually good news because he fixed the garage issue and the upstairs toilet issue, and the leak has stopped. So that was the problem. It was not something under the house. We are all good now.
It wasn't your expensive sprinkler unit that you have.
No, it was actually it was actually the upstairs. It was the upstairs toilet. I don't even know what it was, but like, it you know the old joke, is your refrigerator running?
Yes.
Okay, well, you could actually hear, like, at all times, there was just the slightest sound of water running.
Did you pick up the back and actually like check and see any of the things?
Well, yeah, he opened up and like it looked normal.
Did you do that though before this?
I didn't know it was. This guy's like, listen, you got to really listen. And I listened, and he's like, you hear that? And I was like, I do hear something. And he goes, it's not supposed to be making that noise all the time. There's like water constantly running here for some reason. And so whatever it was, he fixed that, and he fixed the downstairs, and then he took me out front to show me the meter, and the meter's no longer turning, so we all good.
My man got a new flange for $1,000.
$1,600.
New flapper.
And like when I think about digging up everything and having to go underground and the pipes and all that, I am not complaining one bit about that one right there.
Good.
Could have got Craig to do it for $100. Get out of here. Stop. Everyone's always got a better... You ever notice that? It's like no matter what happens, everyone's always got a better idea.
Of course.
And then when it happens to them and everyone comes to them with a better idea, they're like, will you shut... Anyway. Handled. Now where were we?
Ed Wiskowski.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, I started wrestling. It's always weird when you start wrestling. If I were coming along today, I would count the YWF, because I've seen a lot of weird shows in my day that count as wrestling. But if we look at when was the first time you were like in a ring, in an actual ring, that would have been 98. And I wrestled, blind leading the blind for several years. And then one day, Tim Flowers comes up and says, hey, you want to go to Oregon with Buddy Wayne? I said, what? He goes, Buddy, he watched your match. He thinks you guys could work good together. You want to go to Oregon with him. He's got a show down there. He wants you to be his opponent. I was like, all right. And so I didn't know nothing and went down to this show with Buddy. And the butterfly effect, we got there. I think it was a nice car ride and everything, talked, blah, blah, blah. And so then we get there, and it's at a bull ring. Yes. A bull ring.
They have bull rings up there.
There was a ring in the middle of a bull ring. And so we're outside.
It's a squared circle in a circle.
And you know who I think was also there was Fatu. Tonga Kid was working the show as well.
Sam Fatu?
Yes. But anyway, so we're talking about what to do for this match, and I don't know what's going on. I never did anything like this. All I did was choreograph matches with guys like Nikki Sixx and Craig, and he just wants to call it all in the ring, and he's going over this match, and I remember him saying, and when it's time. That was one of his favorite phrases, when it's time. Because you listen to the crowd. You didn't choreograph your match and just go by the script. It was like, when it's time, you're going to make your comeback. And he goes, when it's time, I'll give you the office. And I said, okay, you'll give me the offense? And there was a long pause. And he goes, I'll give you the office. And I said, what? The offense? He goes, where's the keys? He was ready to turn around and go home. I did not know the term giving me the office. And so thankfully, he didn't turn around and go home. And we did the match and totally called in the ring. We went 20 minutes and then the time limit expired. And then we did the 5 more minutes gimmick. And then I pinned him with like a sunset flip or something. And afterwards, he was happy as a clam. And he goes, I got all these shows. You're coming with me. And so we would go all over Oregon. And I don't want to be that guy, but back in the day, a double shot was not Friday, Saturday. A double shot was actually 2 shows in a row. And we do all these double shots. We'd work the opener on one show, and then we'd drive across town, because you could do that back then. We'd drive across town and do another show, and work usually not the main event, but we'd work later on in the show on the next show. So we do actual double shots. And that's when I met all of the, Tough Tony Bourne was still alive. And met Playboy Buddy Rose and Ed Moretti and the Colonel, Ed Wiskowski. And they were all friends with Buddy. And so, we would all go eat and hang out, and Buddy and the Colonel ended up having a wrestling school in Oregon. And I think if you know anything about like the 2000s wrestling scene in the Oregon area, like the Milwaukee Elks Lodge, and there was Portland Wrestling down there on the WB network, which I was a part of. And
you and Bryan Danielson.
Bryan Danielson, yep. And a lot of those matches you see during commercial breaks, Ladies' Choice, those were all for the Portland Wrestling reboot on the WB in Portland. And when I was a part of that, I thought, man, this is my big break, brother. We're all going to be rich. And we weren't. But the point is, so, I got to meet everybody. And I think a lot of the guys that kind of kicked off their careers during that period, I think that a lot of them were trained by Buddy and the Colonel. And they had this little school in downtown Portland, if I recall. And sometimes we would go there like before or after because we used to drive down to go do shows for Tito Carrion.
Oh, yeah?
For his lucha school. And golly, I loved Tito was the nicest guy. But first off, his ring was made of like concrete. And,
Was it a boxing ring or what was it?
That was where I first learned. I absolutely love Lucha Libre. In another life, I would be a luchador. I would do nothing but Lucha Libre. I would have the time of my life. If my kids, my kids every now and then ask about wrestling, and I don't want them to be fans, but if I did, we would be watching CMLL. Just all of the high-flying, crazy, fun, wild. And my favorite, my actual favorite style of wrestling is like great lucha between two great luchadors. Love it. I'd rather watch that than anything else, okay? But I learned at Tito Carrion's school, there's nothing on this planet worse than bad lucha. Like, win an American-style match or a Japanese-style match. When one of those falls apart, like, it can be funny and it can be bad, but it ain't nothing like a lucha match falling apart. And this was Tito Carrion's wrestling school, and they ran every weekend. And we drove down from Seattle to Tito's school every single weekend to work on these student shows. But, like, we didn't do lucha. It was, like, me and my buddy Nate and Vinny and what's his name? Davey Richards. We used to drive down with him. It is the very early beginning part of his career. We took him down to Tito Carrion's for these shows. And we do, like, American-style matches. But then, like, everyone else was doing these lucha matches. And, oh, my God. We saw some of the most horrific matches you've ever seen in your life.
The fact that Vinny was tapped to do lucha.
He wasn't doing lucha. I was telling you, we were doing American style. We didn't do lucha.
On lucha shows,
but, like, he was just happy that we were there having, like, decent matches. Because a lot of these matches were terrible. So anyway, the point of all of this, I don't even remember the point, but it's like sometimes before or after the show, we would go to Buddy and the Colonel to their school. And one of my favorite stories is, like, I think nowadays a lot of people have watched so much wrestling that you all get a match, kind of. Even if you've never worked, you kind of get it. So, like, the match starts, the babyface gets some shine, or as Milwaukee wrestling legend Tadger described it, the good guy's winning on you, and then the bad guy's winning on you, and then the good guy's winning on you again, and you do everything.
And then the ref F's on you.
So, like, when I first started, I didn't know any of this. I didn't understand anything. So we would watch a match that we liked. Actually, at first, when I first started, Nikki Sixx would do this. He would, like, script out a match from some match that he liked, and then he would tell me what my role was, and I would memorize it, and we would go out and we would literally do a choreographed match. And, I mean, they were fine. They weren't, like, good, but, I mean, they were all right. And then after a while, I started doing that with Craig, where it was like, okay, Craig, you're Vader, and I'm Shawn Michaels. And I would script out the exact match that Vader and Shawn Michaels did, and I would give Craig and I the role of Vader and Shawn Michaels. He was normally Vader. And so anyway, after a while, I did some of these. I was scripting out these matches and everything. What's happening here?
I don't know.
I pause it. I was scripting out these matches and everything, and that's when I figured out, oh, okay, so the babyface is winning on the heel early. Then something bad happens. Then the heel beats up the baby. Then the babyface makes a cut. And so I figured out this very, very basic psychology of a match.
Did you call it heat?
Not at that point. That was after I met Buddy and I learned about The Office and such. So anyway, that's when I first started to figure out the basic psychology of a wrestling match. But then, like, you're reading all of these newsletters, and, you know, they're talking about, well, this match was good, but the psychology was all messed up. And so in the beginning, I kind of got it, but I kind of didn't. And I was like, what does that really mean? And, like, okay. So anyway, the point is, one day, we were at Buddy Rose's school with him and the Colonel, and he was going to do, like, anybody got any questions? And so I decided now's my chance, because I'd always heard, you know who had great psychology? Playboy Buddy Rose, a master of wrestling psychology in the ring. That's all people said about him. You know, it wasn't like he was actually a really good athlete given his size, but he had great psychology. Colonel as well. So I said, Buddy, I just would like to know. I always hear about it. I kind of get the basics of it, but, like, how would you explain, like, the psychology of a wrestling match? And there was, like, a long pause, and he goes, I really don't have any idea how to answer that question. He couldn't put it into words. Like, he couldn't explain it. It was just like one of those things where, like, he just felt it, and he did it. But he couldn't explain it. Now, all the students were there, all paying him money, but, like, he couldn't explain it. So I'll never forget that. Like, golly, what an answer to that question.
Did you talk about training with Vern or anything like that?
We weren't talking about that. He was,
say, well,
he was teaching everyone how to not die in the wrestling ring and how to try to safely work a match.
Well, that is more important there, but I mean, both him and Ed Wiskowski started in the
we didn't
Midwest.
Talk history. We didn't talk history.
Now
we did talk every now and then. Like once, I won't mention any names, but I did have one person in that area hand me a thing of foil and tell me to take it to another guy. I later found out I was in the middle of a drug deal.
No kid.
Yeah, welcome to 2000 indie wrestling in Portland. But anyway, the Colonel was like, you know, he's a friendly chap and everything. He was a big dude. And eventually, you know, Playboy passed away in like 2009, and then kind of like everyone sort of went their separate ways or whatever. And he moved to, I think, Arizona.
Yes.
And, you know, me and Ed Moretti and Buddy and the Colonel, we were all like on kind of an email chain. And, like, some Portland guy would pass away, and there would be, like, a chain about it and everything. We'd all talk. But then, like, about 2010 or 11, like, I'd start getting these almost daily emails from the Colonel, and they were all forwarded political emails. Okay? I have thousands of them in my email. He just would send them and forward them and forward them and forward them. And, like, I think the last one I got was about 2001. But, I mean, just for years and years. You want to hear about Obama and Trump and Hillary? Have I got some emails for you? Back in a moment, Observer Live. If you love this show, you should consider signing up at WrestlingObserver.com. WrestlingObserver.com has every show that we have ever done. Over 15,000 podcasts in the archives, dating back to 2005. Searchable by show, searchable by year. Perhaps the first show you ever watched was 2008 WrestleMania? Well, you can head into the archives and you can find the podcast we did, all built around the 2008 WrestleMania. Every major show, whether it be WWE, AEW, we covered it all. 15,000 archived shows at WrestlingObserver.com. Also, when you subscribe, you get full access to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. There's a new Observer every Friday. And on top of that, we have thousands and thousands of archived issues of the Observer dating back to 1991. So again, WrestleMania 2008. Go to the archives, search WrestleMania 2008, read all of the issues surrounding that show. Of course, Wrestling Observer newsletter, 40,000 words of news and information on pro wrestling and mixed martial arts every single week. New issue comes out every Friday. New back issue comes out every Monday. You also get the discussion board. One of the best discussion boards on the internet. It's members only. If you're going to troll, well, you got to pay to troll, and there aren't too many of those. And if you cause too much trouble, you're out of there. So if you want a great place to discuss professional wrestling, it is the board. Also available as a subscriber at WrestlingObserver.com. The whole package, all of the new shows, all of the archived shows, all of the new issues of The Observer, all of the archived editions of the newsletter, all of the past episodes of Wrestling Observer Radio, Wrestling Observer Live, The Bryan and Vinny Show, Figure 4 Daily, Filthy 4 Daily, The Board, all of it, just $14.99 per month. The full shebang, and you can save a lot of money getting an annual subscription. A full year, you basically get 2 months free. So check it out, WrestlingObserver.com, everything you'll ever need as a fan of professional wrestling. Check it out today, F4WOnline.com. Dom's sending silly pictures of Pac to us during the break. Look at this guy. Yes, it's true. The AEW YouTube, I guess this would be tomorrow at 7 p.m., has close-up exclusive with the Death Riders with Renee Paquette. And if you watched the Collision show this weekend, it appears that if you're wondering what in the world is the storyline with Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, it will be explained tomorrow on this show.
What?
Yeah. What his mindset as a character, and I believe as a real person, actually is.
For God's sakes.
Yes.
Sure.
That's what it says.
All right.
So we'll find out.
It's like Darby being pushed down the stairs by the evil Death Riders, and then it's like the next day, well, I'm going to go over to climb Mount Everest now. I don't think we need to know Jon Moxley. We know what his real feelings are. He wants AEW to be successful. He wants there to be an alternative for people. The issue is not that. The issue is him and the storyline and what his motivations are and why he's not being stopped from trying to, like, kill people with bleach and all that sort of stuff. Like, that's what needs to make sense and be explained. And they need to do that on Dynamite and Collision, not on a YouTube show.
Well, I think there's an easy explanation for this and virtually everything in AEW. And it's real. It's actually very much like Jon Moxley's storyline. It is real life and it is also storyline.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Tony Khan is in charge of everything. I've said this before. Whatever you like or don't like, it all comes down to Tony. That's real life. But in storyline, the Tony Khan character is an absolute, complete, and total maniac who just wants insanity and chaos at all times.
Then make that part of the storyline.
It is, if you watch the show. Hey, I'm out of here. I'll be back in an hour with Tom. Yes, 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. Filthy Tom Lawler for subscribers. And later on tonight, Wrestling Observer Radio. Check it out. We'll talk to you next time, Wrestling Observer Live. Hit that mark!